Good morning, all of you. This is class 11th, subject biology, and today we will do the lecture 2 of chapter 1, that is the living world. And today you will learn about need of classification, taxonomy, and nomenclature. So, diversity in living world. This is the next topic in your NCERT book. So, the number and type of organisms present on earth refer to biodiversity, right? Means all the different types of organisms present on earth refer to biodiversity. That is called biodiversity. And there are so many species present on earth, and according to our data, total number of species, okay, or you can say types of organisms. So total number of species described is 1.7 to 1.8 million. Now you can think that this number is a very big number, okay, and for so many organisms or for so many species, you can say it is very difficult to give separate names to all the organisms, okay, and to identify all the organisms by their separate names. So to resolve that problem, there is taxonomy. Taxonomy is the study of identification, classification, and nomenclature of organism. So in taxonomy, we study about the identification of organisms, their classification in separate categories, and their nomenclature, means to give a standard names to the organisms, right? It can be called systematics. When it is called systematics, when taxonomy is called systematics, when it considers the evolutionary relationship between the organisms. So you can say systematics is an advanced form of taxonomy in which we also consider the evolutionary relationship between the organisms, okay. Means taxonomy is the study of identification, classification, and nomenclature of organisms, and when we consider the evolutionary relationship also between the organisms, then this taxonomy is called systematics. And this systematics word, it came from the Latin word systema. Systema means systematic arrangement of anything, okay. So this is like a systematic arrangement of organisms. Systema Natura, Nature. This is a book written by Linnaeus, okay, in 1735. And in Systema Natura, what is written? It's about the systematics. It's about the taxonomy, that how organisms can be arranged systematically. Then basic processes of taxonomy. We are saying that in taxonomy we identify, classify, and means give the names to the organisms. So what are the basic processes of taxonomy? So these four are basic processes of the taxonomy. First is characterization, second is identification, third is classification, and then nomenclature last. So let's start with the characterization first. What is characterization? So you can say that characterization is the understanding of characters of organisms such as external and internal structure, right? External organs or internal organ structure, then structure of cell, developmental process in any organism, and also ecological information. In ecological information, like organisms habitat, its interaction with its with other living organisms, or with the abiotic factors like sunlight, soil, temperature, okay. So all these things come under the ecological information. So understanding of all the external characteristics, internal structures, structure of cell, developmental processes, and ecological informations come under the characterization. So first, when we see any organism, or you can say when any biologist see any organism, he or she will do the characterization of the organism on the basis of these things. After that, next step will be identification of the organism based on these characteristics. Based on the characteristics like cell structure, developmental processes, internal organ structure, based on all these characteristics, a correct description of the organism is given. Okay, so that the naming is possible. So you can say that correct description of the organism is called identification. After the identification, next thing that will be done with the organism will be classification. Classification is the grouping of organism into convenient categories. Once any biologist has been characterized the organism and that organism has been identified, after that, that organism will be kept, or it will be grouped into a convenient category. Okay, and these convenient categories are called taxa. Later on we will discuss about it in detail, what is taxa and what are these convenient categories. So all the organisms will be grouped into separate categories, okay, based on the characteristics and the identifications. Now you can see here like different organisms based on the characteristics can be grouped like this, okay, like fungi, the organisms having a type of heterotrophic nutrition and other characteristics which are similar to the previously studied fungi. Okay, likewise animals can be kept in a separate category, plants can be kept in a separate category on the basis of some observable characteristics, right? So like this way these organisms are grouped into separate categories, convenient categories. After the classification, one more thing that is required here is nomenclature. So there are so many organisms present on the earth, and all these organisms are known by different names in different area, okay, and according to the area their names can change, okay, and these names are called local names. So these local names would vary from place to place. Even within a country, you can see that different organisms are given different names. Okay, so it becomes very difficult to recognize any organism, or you can say it becomes very confusing, right? That's why a standardization of the name is essential, right? And nomenclature is that thing. So what is the nomenclature? It is the standardization of the names of organisms such that an organism is known by the same name all over the world. So in nomenclature, a standard name is given to all the organisms so that by that name that organism will be recognized all over the world. There will be no change in that name from country to country or from place to place, right? It will be a standard name all over the world. Like this is Apis indica, that is honey bee. So Apis indica is the standard name for the honeybee all over the world. Name honeybee can vary from place to place, but the Apis indica is the standard name. Likewise for the mango, name of mango can vary from place to place, but Mangifera indica, that is a, you can say, standard name for the mango. It will remain same place to place. These are called scientific names, okay. In nomenclature, we give scientific names to the organisms. The system of naming with two components. Now this, as you have seen, Mangifera indica. So one organism or one fruit has been given name having two words, right? So the system of naming with two components. These two words will be called as two components. So this is called binomial nomenclature. Bi means two, nomial, nomenclature. So that's because the scientific name has two components. That's why this is called binomial nomenclature. And all the organisms, either it is a plant or animal, the name is given in two components, and that's why this system of naming is called binomial nomenclature. And who proposed this system of nomenclature? Linnaeus, again, who wrote the book nature, Systema natura. Okay. After that, botanical names are based on the rules in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. Right? For nomenclature also, two separate books have been written in which rules for the nomenclature are given. And there are two separate books for the nomenclature of animals and for the nomenclature of plants. So botanicals means related to plants. So the rules for the nomenclature of plants are given in a book, or you can say under the code International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, that is called ICBN. So this is International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, means for the nomenclature of plants. And for the animals nomenclature, the rules are under the International Code for Zoological Nomenclature, that is ICZN. Next thing is universal rules of binomial nomenclature. So there are some rules which need to be followed when any biologist give name to any organism after its characterization and identification. Some rules need to be followed to give the name to any organism, and these rules are called as rules of binomial nomenclature. And the first rule is scientific names are in Latin or Latinized and written in italics. Okay, these words should be related to the Latin. Okay, because the Latin origin was there for the binomial nomenclature, and these are always written in italics. When handwritten, they are underlined separately. If to write in italics is not possible, if anyone is writing these names in their own handwriting, then what is done? The names are underlined separately. Like for the mango, this is the scientific name, Mangifera indica. Okay, so this is handwritten, this is not in italics. In this case, it is underlined. Okay, like you can see, Mangifera is underlined, then separately indica is underlined. So this is first rule, that either the scientific name will be written in italics or it will be underlined separately. Means these two components of the scientific name, Mangifera is one component and indica is another. So these two components will be underlined separately. Next rule is the first word is genus name. Now look here, this Mangifera, this is first word you can say, and this indica is second word. Okay, so this first word Mangifera, this is genus name. Okay, I will tell you what is genus later on in this chapter. So this is genus name, or it can be called generic name, right? And the second word is the species name or specific epithet. So this is second word, that is indica, and this is representing the name of species, or you can say species epithet. Then third rule for the nomenclature is genus name starts with capital letter and the species name with small letter. So you can see here this Mangifera, M is starting from the capital letter, and the second word in which species name is written, it is starting from small letter. Like M is capital and I is small. So this is a rule. Next rule is author's name. Okay, author means who is giving the name to any organism. It is written in abbreviated form. Okay, and it is written at the end of biological name. Like here, Mangifera indica, Linn. So what is Linn here? Linn is author's name, that is Linnaeus. So authors means the biologist who gave name for the mango, who gave this scientific name to the mango was Linnaeus. His name was Linnaeus. So here abbreviated form of the Linnaeus is written after the word Homo sapiens, or after the Mangifera indica. Both these are both these names were given by the Linnaeus. That's why Linnaeus name is written like this after these scientific names, like Linn. abbreviated form. Okay, so here this Homo sapiens is the scientific name for the human being. Okay, this Homo word present here is representing genus, and sapiens word is representing species name. Okay, and Lin is author's name, right? So in every scientific name you will see these two components like this, in which first word will be genus name and the second word will be species name. Okay, and in the last, scientist name can be written, author's name can be written in abbreviated form. I hope it was clear to you. Now, based on these topics, your homework is NCERT question number 1 to 5. You need to do these questions in your notebook and must learn these questions. Now we will discuss the answer of the question that I gave you in homework in previous lecture. And the question was, write down the characteristics of living organisms. So here is the answer. The living organisms exhibit different characteristics, which are as follows. So first characteristic I have told you earlier also, that is growth. So all living organisms grow in size as well as in number, right? Plants show growth all through their life, whereas the animals up to a certain growth period, after which growth ceases, means it's stop after a certain time. Then reproduction is the next characteristic of the living organism. Every organism, whether unicellular or multicellular, give rise to an individual of its own kind. Lower organisms usually reproduce asexually. Usually lower organisms reproduce asexually. For example, hydra, fungi, yeast, etc. And the sexual reproduction is found in advanced groups of organisms, which involves two parents. Right? Now these two characteristics, means growth and reproductions, these are characteristics of living organisms, but these are not defining characteristics or defining property of the living organism. Next is metabolism, which is a defining characteristic of the living organism. So metabolism, there are thousands of enzymatically controlled reactions occurring in living cells, right? So many biochemical reactions occur inside the living body or living cells, you can say. These are synthesizing, okay, these are synthesizing, you can say anabolic reactions, and breaking down, you can say catabolic reactions. Hence, it is the most important characteristic of the living organism. So this metabolism, which includes the catabolic and anabolic reactions, is the most important characteristic of the living organism, which occurs in a cell. Next characteristic is response to stimuli, which is called consciousness. Okay, consciousness and response to stimuli is the defining property of all living organisms. Plants respond to light, water, temperature, and unicellular organisms also sense their environment and respond accordingly. So this is also a defining property. Next is cellular organization. Cellular organization is also a defining property of the living organisms. The cellular organization of body. What is this? Cell work together in hierarchical manner. Hierarchical manners means a group of cells make tissues, then group of tissues make organs, and group of organs make organ system. And these organ systems, when work in coordination, form an individual, right? So we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, okay, evolving, which are changing time to time, and capable of responding to external stimuli. So all these are characteristics of living organisms.